If you build something that's too unfamiliar to users, it's going to take a long time for them to get used to it. And I think this is something about marketing that I've learned too with building apps, which is you don't want to present something too unique, too different, from what they've seen before. And my favorite example is the iPhone.
What if you explore the balance between innovation and practicality? Because you kind of did 5 years ago. Maybe it wasn't practical, but now it's like, okay, maybe this is the right time. Costs are down, like you said in the very beginning, and people are now already using ChatGPT, interacting with one person, now
That's right.
opening up to multiple people.
If you build something that's too unfamiliar to users, it's going to take a long time for them to get used to it. And I think this is something about marketing that I've learned too with building apps, which is you don't want to present something too unique, too different, from what they've seen before. And my favorite example is the iPhone. And when Steve Jobs launched that, he didn't want the icons to look too different or the interface to be too unfamiliar. And I think the reason you don't want to do that is you want people to be able to pick up the new thing, drop the old thing, and not feel like they are struggling to do so. You want to make it as easy as possible for the person to grab the thing they're doing, put it down, and pick up the thing that they need to do next without. And so for me, the goal originally was, how do I build a tool that makes it easier for people to find and discover information within the language models? But if I said that to the average user, they'd look at me like, what are you talking about? So I set out not to invent a new interface, but to find an interface, to find apps and services that people use today that help them do similar things, and said, I'm not going to change a thing. I'm going to make it look exactly like that. And that's so important, because when you're able to do that, you get just this natural interaction from people. Like my mom uses it. She's like 50. She like loves using it and doesn't have a question about how it works.
There's a book called Mom Test. Like, if your mom can use your product, you've made it. And you literally have the Mom Test story.
Exactly that. Exactly. It made me feel pretty good. And that's really what I go after is, can I build a product that makes people feel good, that makes people feel like it's solving a problem for them? And I think we're going to see a lot of products like this coming up over time. I knew I could push my app further if I reached out to people and tried to hype it up and do all these things. I knew I could, but when you do that, you kind of camouflage and cover up the potential virality or interest from the public on a product. And so instead of trying to reach out to press and inflate the product, I wanted to test just how powerful of an idea it could be with the least amount that I could do. And so I went ahead and I just posted a tweet that had like a couple paragraphs of why I built what I built. And I said, if people like it, they will come. And I put the bar there and I said, I'm not reaching out to nobody else. I'm just posting this. The reason I did this is because if my product is truly going to resonate with people, then this should be enough. I told myself, if I do anything more to try and push it, it's going to be hard for me to know if this product truly has traction or not.
So it worked.
Yes.
Now, Michael, you have 37,000 followers. You still do the same if you had, I don't know, 37 period.
Most of the followers on social media that I have, completely inactive. If you looked at most of my tweets besides those, those couple of ones, there's like maybe tops 100 likes. Some of these, for example, that podcast one I shared, I got like, I don't know, like a couple dozen, 50 some, I don't know. Right. So like very few likes on most of my tweets. The thing is, people then look at the top tweets, right? That one there has 13 likes. So, when I built Force Snaps too, and I built the past apps, I'd get like no likes. No one would interact with it. When I was building social AI and sharing screenshots of my app, no one would like my screenshots. No one cared until I made the post where I announced I launched it with a link. And so sometimes it just goes like wildfire and get catches. Other times it doesn't. If you don't have a lot of followers at all to start with, though, my best suggestion would be to tweet about it and then grab your tweet and send it via a direct message to other people. that are in the industry whose DMs are open. Don't give them more context. Don't, try to pitch them on the product, but simply just share what you posted and share it via DMs. People, especially people on Twitter, are always looking to find the next big product. And if you can just get them to see your post, they will give it 3 or 5 seconds to read what the hell it is. And if in 3 to 5 seconds you can get them to think this is interesting, then it's solved.
What challenges did you face as a young entrepreneur, and how did you overcome them?
The biggest challenge I faced was trying to quickly identify my strengths and weaknesses and leaning into those. I think when you're young, it's hard to know what you should spend most of your time doing and what you should skip over or delegate to somebody else. And as I got older, I was so excited about the apps. I wanted to try and do it all. And I realized there were some things that it would take me a little bit less time than other people at getting good at. And there were other things that I just struggled to get good at when other people around me who weren't even trying could just do. And identifying those is really hard because what it requires is an acknowledgement that one is just not as capable in many things. And looking for that, I think, is one of the toughest challenges growing up. As soon as I knew it, though, as soon as I could identify, bad at product management, good at product intuition, bad at stable infrastructure, good at rapid interface iteration. Like as soon as I could identify these things, I immediately set out to set myself up so that I could spend the most time getting done the things I could do well. And I could set aside time to really learn how to improve on those other skills. And it took me time because I had to go back. And I think at one point I was building these apps and I was relying on services like Firebase and services like Versal to build the backend infrastructure for my apps. And I did so because I wasn't good at the backend stuff. And I was a little bit scared that building with backend, I wouldn't know what to do. And I wanted to move fast. And so I'd skip over it. But I realized over time that skipping over some of these things while it's advantageous can lead to a growth paralysis where the person no longer continues to expand on their potential, but rather hits a ceiling. And so for me, it meant having to put a pause on some of the apps that I was building for a bit, going back to YouTube, going back to square one, and learning the basics of how to program for infrastructure. And doing that, I spent maybe 2 or 3 months just watching these videos from the start. People would say, why the hell is he going back to doing these things? He's spent 6 years in the industry and worked on all those things back then, right? And the answer is, if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have been able to build something like social AI. I wouldn't have been able to understand some of the details to how to build an authentication system that works well. And these are little steps that I think were kind of the toughest to learn because at many times it feels like a step back to tell yourself you have to go back and learn something at an earlier stage. But taking those little breaks to go back and do these things leads to just better outcomes in the future. And once I was able to learn how to do the backend infrastructure, I was then able to get a sense of who in the industry is really good at that, which is important when you're looking to hire people. If you don't have a grasp of what a good marketing campaign looks like or what a good backend infrastructure looks like, when you're looking to hire somebody to do that job, it's really hard to get a sense of if that person's going to do it well or not if you have no clue. That was some of the things that I struggled with.